Welcome to Inspiration Inc. I have one of India's most renowned lawyers with me today, Zia Mody. She needs no introduction. Ma'am, thank you so much for joining us.
Pleasure.
And it's a pleasure having you on this show, Inspiration Inc. Everybody knows your story and everybody knows what Zia Mody is all about. But I'm going to ask you a couple of questions which will actually bring out the inspirational part of your journey so far. So first of all, let me go back to, I think, the very basic question. I was reading about you and I realized that actually it was your mom who always used to push you. And in fact, to an extent that in any competition or in any exam, if you would score anything below number 1, then she wouldn't be bothered about which position you were on. How did you deal with that?
It was quite stressful actually. It wasn't always easy. You were always worried that you would not make your parents as proud of you as you wanted them to be. But some parents are more driven than others. I think I am a much more casual parent than my mother was. I get disappointed less. My expectations are better managed. But if you are looking at what probably instilled the drive in me and hard-coded the ambition to succeed in me, that's probably the reason.
Okay, but the other part of that whole situation was it your mother's confidence in you, or was it her own drive and ambition which was pushing you?
I think again a combination. So my mother got married when she was 17.
Okay.
So she always felt that she could not flower and have a professional career, which she blamed my poor father for. We always used to tease my mother that she missed winning the Nobel laureate because she married my father. So I think part of it was just her dreams for all her children.
Right.
I think I was a special focus because I was the eldest and a girl.
Correct.
And my mother and I and all my brothers are also Baha'is. We believe very deeply in the Baha'i faith. And there the religious principle is equality of men and women. Religious, it's a commandment. So they can't be unequal, even if they want to. I always say I can be unequal, but they can't be unequal. So I think that, coupled with just the way we grew up, my father really took the foot off the pedal in terms of looking after the kids. He was just so busy. He was around,
correct,
but he really wasn't, in that sense, deep diving into our school books or anything like that. So mom was the default, and she was there, and a very strong, principled woman. So I think she was a role model for all of us.
But how was it, to have a father who was such a huge figure right in your home, then your mom who was again so driven.
Stressful.
Stressful. No, it can be inspirational
And
also.
Yes. Well, dad was always, in a way, much larger than life outside than inside the house. Like all parents, right? You take your parents for granted. But you get a glimpse of his achievements when you are young, when you see the way the outside world treats him and the respect that he was accorded. When he was Attorney General, we were young, I was abroad. We never really knew the jurisprudence that he was part of. Just creating good law in that sense, with the whole team, obviously. So Papa's successes we really came to appreciate, at least I did, when I was much older.
Right. But, I remember, and this is a story that you have often shared also, that at one point in time, in your younger days, you were actually, your only focus in life was to get married and sort of settle down, and your mom almost sort of packed you off abroad.
Not almost.
Literally.
Packed me off.
So, it's a little difficult situation to deal with because mentally you are engineered or wired to, inclined to do something else. And then suddenly you have this new situation in front of you. So the question that I have is, what made you excel in that situation? Because it's a very, it's recipe for disaster if you don't deal with it correctly.
No, I think that, so one of the other commandments of our religion as Baha'is is that you cannot get married without the consent of both your parents, rightly or wrongly. That's a religious commandment. And I think my mother made it very clear that she was not going to allow me to get married. So I thought it's just best to go and get on with life till she dealt with it.
Correct.
So, I wasn't doing too badly. I was studying in England, then I went to America. I honed my skills. In a way, the commitment that my parents put in me allowed me to carry on. In the way that what they were saying is, we've really invested in you. It's not money, it's our hopes and your future. And so the more exposure I got after I left India till I came back, I sucked in virtually. I just absorbed it and trained myself to keep on allowing myself the energy to continue, because I knew that the one soft spot that every woman faces, and I was going to be no exception, is, will I give up? And what will stop me from really giving up? And I figured that the more I could absorb, and the more I could learn about the world with the opportunities that I had, the abundance of experience would stop me from throwing it away.
Right. But then when you decided to, after literally taking off in your career in US and working in one of the best firms, and I would say in a very very learned sort of neighborhood, the way you were sort of starting your career, after that when you decided to move back to India, did you ever feel that you were kind of overqualified in the Indian system at that point, or the legal, I would say, ecosystem was not really ready to receive you?
I felt just the opposite. So, when I was in New York, I was doing corporate law.
Yeah.
But when I came back here, I realized what a lawyer had to be. It had to be corporate plus. So, in India at that time, there was no great corporate M&A.
Correct.
In the mid-80s. And so I was now in an ecosystem where I was with my peers who had done Indian law all their life. And I had not done a single day of Indian law.
Right.
And I had to get up and argue before a judge who had only done Indian law for decades and present myself as a woman, superior or at least equal to my male counterpart.
Right.
So, did I feel I was better than the system? Absolutely not. I was nervous as hell. I thought I would not be able to cut it. That, all my peers would obviously be far ahead of me because they just had the benefit of so many years of Indian law, which I never had. 10 years I lost.
Right.
From the time I left India till the time I came back, 10 years I've gone, virtually. It was one long night after the other. One long nervous night after the other. What will happen tomorrow? Will somebody laugh at me? Oh God, will I screw up? Have I missed anything? Let me start again. Those were the kittens in my stomach.
Right. And how did, were they receptive, your male colleagues in those days?
I don't think they were mean or anything like that. I knew them as children. We grew up in the same club and families and dinners and parties. I don't think anybody was unreceptive. I don't think anybody was receptive. When you start at that level as beginners, you're not even great competitors. You're all friends.
Correct.
There's as little work for everybody or as much work for everybody.
Right.
And at least the tradition that we grew up in when I came back was that you shared. You shared cases. which were for you, which were against you. You started learning the tradition of being brutally honest with the other side. You would never lie.
Right.
You need not be, dordayo as they say.
Correct.
But you didn't ever lie. And the commitment that you had to the judge, that was absolute.
Right.
So we were all brought up as youngsters to say you are an officer of the court, not of the client. The court comes first.
Right.
So how to hard code that DNA, that value system, that training, because ultimately everybody wants to win every time, right? How do you deal with disappointments? How do you deal with when you're wrong and you lose, your client is wrong and you lose, theek hai. But when your client you think is right and you lose, you take it very personally as a young lawyer.
Right.
Because it's your fault according to you. Certainly according to the client.
Absolutely.
So, so those were a lot of emotions that went through me when I was young.
Can you share any such case where you felt or you blamed yourself for something that went wrong, or maybe the judgment didn't go the way it should have gone, or didn't go your way, and how did you deal with it?
I remember I was arguing a case once as a youngster before a judge, Justice Sujata Manohar, who later went to the Supreme Court. Fine judge, wonderful woman. And I lost. And I didn't think I should lose, but who am I?
You did.
Right. So she dismissed my motion. And I was very disappointed. I thought I had not presented it right. I thought that maybe the client should have got somebody more senior than me. Did I let the client down? Could I have done better? Usual. And the problem is, by nature, I am excessively paranoid. If I think I could have done better, right?
Right.
So there was only one thing to do from the client's point of view, and that was to appeal. And of course, in the appeal, I had to give it even more my all, right? Because I lost in the lower court.
Right.
And that division bench was headed by Justice Lentin, Bommy Lentin, who gave the report on the JJ issue in the hospital. And he was such a puppet, such a sweetheart. He wasn't in my favor either. But he let me argue, right? And he listened patiently.
He gave you your space.
He gave me the entire floor for as long as I wanted. It wasn't much, but for 20 minutes I held free flow. Then he explained to me very gently why he didn't agree with me, and that he agreed with Justice Manohar. But I went away feeling much better. I went away feeling I had done my best. And as my father used to tell me, you can't win every case every time, get on with it.
Right.
So that was 2 consecutive losses in one case that took quite the stuffing out of me.
Right. But I'm sure you must have learned out of it, out of those.
You learn out of victories, you learn out of defeats.
Yeah. But what makes you so fearless? If we look at your journey, and this is on record, I mean, right from Mukesh Ambani to so many of your clients and colleagues, they are on record, they've said that you are very fearless and very frank, to some extent blunt in your opinion. What makes you so fearless?
I wouldn't say it's fearless. I think I genuinely believe, and as you get older, you tend to believe it more, that the best advice you can give your client is the bitter truth. Right? So I have now become very adept at figuring out which client can take a blunt 5-line conversation and which client needs a 20-minute sugar-coated conversation.
Since you started your career in corporate law, now after so many years and the kind of growth that we have seen in India, do you think the Indian corporate law has evolved to that extent to which it should have evolved in our legal system?
I think it's done very well. If you look at the way we have morphed into a over-governance society, if you like, from a tick-the-box point of view. So today, actually, India is ranked some crazy high up number in corporate governance index, right? Post Satyam, we amended our Companies Act.
Yeah.
I think it was a knee-jerk reaction in many ways, but it has come to stay. Then with every scam, we make it more difficult. It's actually come, I think it's overreached itself, in fact. So, there has to be enough play for management and the board to continue to have the flexibility of responsible decision making without, in hindsight, being held to task.
Right.
Everyone can say this decision ought to have been done this way. But what is wrong with the way it was done? Every decision doesn't make you a billionaire.
Right.
You make mistakes. But I think people right now are worried about class actions, fiduciary responsibility, SEBI looking at them if they are listed.
Right.
Minority shareholders getting very active, proxy advisors making judgment calls all the time. So I think there is a little reticence as compared to before in many companies. Not all, but quite a few.
Right. I'll come back to the personal life. What makes you tell your daughter to not join your firm?
I have not told her not to join my
Yeah,
firm.
but I mean, she is not going to be your successor. So
No. I think that, I grew up in a US law firm. And I was there for 5 years. And I guess that influence was, there was no family edge. And it was all meritocracy. I have 3 daughters. Only one poor thing accidentally did law. The others never wanted to. Even today, as a young lawyer, I think is quite clear she doesn't want to live the life her mother did or to work the hours her mother did. And I think that, she's a young mother now. And how much time she wants to give to the profession, we'll see. But I think that to operate in an ecosystem where we have 450 lawyers now,
Right.
we have 3 founding partners, and if 447 lawyers thought there was a glass ceiling because of someone's children, what would they think of you? What would they think of their future? How do you preserve that precious talent, which is ambitious? So I think, a family member has the right to come into the firm, we don't keep them out, and to work his or her way up. And if they don't get up, they don't get up, what is to be done?
right. But you mentioned about talent, and do you think we have been able to keep pace, especially with the kind of growth that we have in store for us as a nation? We have been able to keep pace with the kind of talent creation that is required to sustain the kind of growth, population, young country like India? I mean, young, when I say young,
No,
it
I
means
don't
age.
think we have. And I think, the statistics are clear. The skilling is falling way behind. You have to bring 1 million people a month into the workforce. We're not. We're not by millions. I think even educational institutions, we need more of them, and we need better.
Switching back to your life, what is the most, I would say the biggest source of inspiration for you? Because you have always been a very driven person, and you would typically burn midnight oil till you get something right if you are working on something, and that's one trait which has stayed with you since the time you started your career. So where does that come from, that kind of inspiration or that kind of drive?
I think it's a combination of just the way I grew up, my nature to succeed, in a way my nature to demonstrate that a woman can do it. My conviction in my religion as a Baha'i, that as a woman I should not stop myself, and in a way I have to prove myself a little more so that the equality tenet is out there and strong. I think my nature, I am aggressive, I am ambitious,
Right.
I am very curious about things, which is great as a lawyer. You want to know new things every day. I like to argue, so that doesn't hurt. So I think and then of course I had the support of both my parents
Right.
and my husband.
Is there one thing, is there something that you would want to change about your life?
Yeah, I think that I have overdone it in my early years as a mother.
Uh-huh.
So I would like to change that but can't. What would I like to change today? I would like to stop thinking that I have to finish every last piece of work or almost before I go to sleep. Some things can just wait. It's
Yeah.
not as if anybody's going to die. I could get that extra hour with my husband. I could probably meet my grandson. But you know, I'm so wired that unless I've read every email before I hit the bed, I get stressed. So that has to change. I'm 62 and I think it's okay if I take an extra day to answer somebody's email, right?
Right.
Nobody's going to kill me.
Correct.
But I can't. So that's the training that I think I need to do.
Last question to you. What would you like to tell, I would say, the youth?
I guess what I would tell them is, you know, your journey is no different from all the generations before you. I think the only thing to be clear that you spend time as a young person thinking through is, what are you really passionate about? Because otherwise it will not sustain. It's what keeps you going is your passion. And so invest the time and make the mistakes and experiment however much you want in your early years to find the one thing that makes you tick.
Right. Thank you so much, ma'am, for joining us. And this was, I think, really inspirational. Thank you so much for your time.
Pleasure.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.